if I could go back in time and tell myself one thing, it would easily be this one thing. Fall in love with the process and not the results. Let me explain what I mean by that. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, I'm Joy. I'm a 20-something Indonesian girl working as an engineer. I love reflecting on my feelings at my 20s and just sharing my journey on the internet. So please like and subscribe if that's something that interests you. When we are chasing a goal, we are normally motivated by something external, an end result. Whether it's a higher paying job, admissions to a prestigious program, a certain weight, or just about any goal you have in mind. We tend to focus on what's on the other side, what's on the finish line. But getting to the finish line is much more complicated than that. Here is a more realistic depiction of what it's like to set a goal and the journey to getting to that specific goal. It's much more complicated than it seems, right? The reality is, the bigger the goal, the longer the distance between where you currently are and the actual results itself. The longer the distance, the more complications, the harder it will be, the more likely you will have the temptation to just give up. So how do you persist? How do you persevere? Or how do you set yourself up for success? I remember telling my friend how one of my goals for the year was to run a half marathon. There's only one problem: I hated working out. But I really genuinely did want to be able to run a half marathon, but I hated the process. I hated the fact that I had to build my stamina and I had to go to the gym regularly to build up my strength so that I would eventually be able to run a half marathon. And I kept asking my friends, how do I be good at working out? How do I run for half an hour without essentially passing out? I got this really good advice. Focus on how you're feeling in the moment. But what does this mean, right? It can mean different things for different people. And the answer to that was multi-layered. It was focusing on the fact that I was able to do one more rep than the previous day. And it was also just being proud of myself for staying consistent. And spoiler alert, I haven't been able to run a half yet, but now I'm able to hold a plank for 2 minutes, which is more than 2022 Joy could have asked for. And this was all because I learned to focus and fall in love with the process instead of the results. Let me give you another example. So one of my goals is to hit 100K on YouTube. And to be very fair, it is a grand goal. Last year when I had this goal, I was just constantly fixated on the fact that my number was not growing. I was stuck in 500 subscribers for the longest time and it was getting frustrating. I just kept asking myself, why is the number not going up? Why am I not growing? And while I get it, I get that you feel anxious and I get that you want that result. But worrying that way actually did not serve me. I've seen some growth on this channel. Yes, it's not 100K yet, but it is a lot better than where I was last year. And it was because I focused on producing better quality videos every week. And I generally started to fall in love with the act of filming, scripting, editing. And now I look forward to filming and editing and putting a video out every week. And I've just fallen in love with the process. So I was told that when you fixate on the process, you stop fixating on the results. And ironically, this is when the results will start showing up. And when the results start showing up this time, it does feel good, but you care a lot less about it because you've started to really genuinely fall in love with the act of doing whatever it may be. It may be studying, creating, or just working on that thing that you really wanted to work on. When you start focusing on the process, you start becoming someone who is intrinsically motivated. When you're intrinsically motivated, you're basically unstoppable because you're motivated by you, and there's nothing more powerful than that. There's no hardship or no challenge great enough that can stop you from overcoming it if you genuinely want to. That's the beauty of intrinsic motivation, and that's the beauty of falling in love with the process. But you might be wondering, how do you fall in love with the process? I definitely think that this is the harder question. How do you fall in love with the process? It can mean really different things depending on the thing you're doing and just the person you are. But I feel like you can categorize it into a few buckets and proceed from there. So the first bucket will be love at first sight. It's something that you just love doing from the get-go. And for me, it is storytelling. I just love stories so much. My mom used to read me a book every single day before I went to bed, and I used to write short stories as a kid. Storytelling is something that I generally do love. There are very few hobbies in my life that fall under that because, let's face it, love at first sight barely exists. The second would be falling in love with time. It's like getting to know someone. Sometimes it's not love at first sight, but as you get to know them, you become more fond of them. And for me, it's video editing, because at first I absolutely hated it. I hated the fact that I would curl up on my desk for hours just to get a 10-minute video out. But now I actually find that it's a really good way for me to exercise my creativity, and I've really generally grown to love it so much. And I feel like if you can fall in love with something after spending more time with it, it might actually be more potent than love at first sight. Because let me tell you this, falling in love with doing something upon your first time doing it, you might not be aware of all the challenges along the way, and you might be romanticizing it. But if you've spent enough time with that thing and still continue to love doing it, then it means that you generally do still like it. And lastly, it's forcing yourself to love it. An analogy to that is like, I don't know, marriages that are based on business contracts. It's like a means to an end. So there are things that you have to do because you need to, not because you genuinely like it. Because let's face it, we can make ourselves like things, but we can't make ourselves like everything. But to do the things you like, you have to do things you don't like. And for me, I love building apps. I just love the process of going 0 to 1. And the process I hate the most is probably compiling the front end code. Let me get a little bit nerdy here. I do not like it, but I do it anyways because I know that in order to be able to ship an app, I have to do it. Maybe as time goes by, maybe we'll fall in love with it, maybe find my way around it, but for the time being, as I generally want to get to the results, I have to be patient enough with the process and love it enough just for me to do it sufficiently. I really think that's it. It's just bucketing it into those 3 things. So instead of asking yourself when you're gonna achieve that goal, you should ask yourself, what are the things I need to do in order to get to that goal, and how do I fall in love with the things I need to do? That will get you a lot closer and kind of let the time pass by, and before you know it, you're gonna be really close to your end goal. I know this because there were so many times when the more I chased results, the more it eluded me, the more it escaped me. And I definitely feel like I would have saved myself from so much emotional turmoil and pain had I just focused on the present, if I had just focused on the process. If you've lived your entire life fixating on the end result, I don't blame you. Society loves to portray the end goal, and whenever we're on Instagram or LinkedIn and just watching people's lives, what we're seeing is just like the highlight reel, the end goal. We never really see the process. Even if you watch a movie or hear someone tell the story, people are just accounting for like the highlights, never the process, never the middle, because it's not a hot story to tell, but that is what helps you evolve from the person you are when you set that goal and become the person you will turn to when you get that goal. Who you are before you pursue a goal and who you are once you achieve it are 2 completely different people, and it is that process that allows you to reconcile that difference. I believe that if you genuinely want something because you want it and not because you want just the results, but you actually enjoy the process of doing it or try to enjoy as much of the process as you can, then there's not going to be any hurdle big enough that's going to stop you from going through whatever. That is what will eventually lead you to your end results. Also, I would like to add that I think it's also incredibly important to want things because you genuinely want them, not because society is telling you that you want them. If you're able to distinguish what it is that you actually want versus the things that society has programmed you into thinking you want, it's a lot easier to fall in love with the process. Trust me. I know this because when I was in college, I thought that I wanted to work in finance, which is so funny to me for so many reasons. And looking back, I never actually wanted to work in finance. I never grew up saying that I wanted to work in finance. I was always a semi-creative, semi-analytical kid. But then when I was in college, it was like this environment where everyone was just applying for investment banking consulting internships, and I noticed that it was like the most accomplished and successful students doing it, and I started doing it and I busted my ass off for it, except I was doing it not because I wanted to, but because I was programmed into thinking that I wanted to. I realized it's a lot easier to work hard, like disgustingly, painfully hard, towards things that you genuinely want. And if you find yourself struggling to stay consistent or to put in the effort, maybe it's because you don't actually want that thing. So it's important to ask yourself too, what is it that you want? What are things that you genuinely enjoy? And how can you get to do more of that? And for me, YouTube is my way of kind of like embracing my creative side and just having fun. And because it's a form of expression, I've been able to post a video every single week, even though I have a full-time job and have a lot of things going on, because it's important to me. You'll always find time to do things that are important to you. If you don't have the time or energy of headspace, then it means that it's not important to you right now, which I think is okay. That's just my spiel. Yep, those are my 2 cents. So that's it from this week's video. I was experimenting with a different editing intro style as I normally do. I hope the audio quality is better. And yeah, I hope if you're watching this channel that you get to figure out what your dreams are and to actually take the steps to pursuing them. Because if there's one thing I want anyone to take anything away from my channel is to feel like they're empowered to do whatever they put their minds to. That's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. I love you. Bye.